caltrop is an area denial weapon designed to stop the enemy. The caltrop is a sturdy, simple, yet effective weapon no matter its position. Its purpose was originally designed to stop elephant and donkey attacks. It graduated to stopping tanks. And now, the caltrop is your defense against propaganda, polished lies, and manufactured outrage. It's free from counterfeit credibility and synthetic truth. However, inside the walls of the caltrop, you're going to be forced to think. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Mike Calderese is the caltrop.
Coming down the mountain from the heaven to the hell, the Mike Calderese, the caltrop, he never stops, so ring the bell. He bring the facts, he's been up every morning till we sleep. He get it deep, Mike Calderese, in your head and in your sheets. And we don't mind, and we don't care, Mike Calderese is the caltrop. And we don't mind, and we don't care, Mike Calderese is the caltrop. And we don't mind, and we don't care, Mike Calderese is the caltrop.
Good evening and welcome to the Caltrop. I'm your host, Mike Calderese. I'll tell you something. My shoulders, do I look crooked? I've been standing crooked the entire day. I've been lifting up concrete blocks, putting them on foundations. We are getting some fucking work done. But I'm getting some sun too. See, it's all working out really well. But welcome to the Caltrop, guys. Listen, we are your defense mechanism for all the one-sided bullshit. And again, you know, I say it all the time. It's going to continue tonight because we have a packed show for you. There's a lot going on, you know, in the news, I guess, in news and in politics. And I like the Wednesday show to be a little newsier, right? And we have some things that are going on, some very interesting parts of the news, starting with the 14th Amendment and the arguments and Trump showing up, which was unprecedented. Just kind of goes to show you how much this means to him. But it's very interesting because what you're seeing right now with everything is you're seeing positioning as well. So with Trump going there, you know, you're seeing the Supreme Court asking a lot of questions that are very, very interesting. The way the dialogue is, it's very interesting to listen to all this stuff. The Mike's Right's going to be talking about the 14th Amendment and just how vague our laws are actually drawn up. I wish there wasn't so much left to interpretation, and we're going to get into that. But we do see some positioning going on. We're going to be talking about Vance. We're going to be talking about Marco Rubio and Trump and how they're kind of positioning themselves with a lot of different things. J.D. Vance is very interesting, right? Because they're setting him up on this Netanyahu feud. And, you know, you obviously have a bunch of contenders that are going to be going for the presidency coming up. And you got to imagine J.D. Vance is one of them. And it's interesting how they're positioning Vance. I think it's all staged, but I also think it's a brilliant move. We're going to be talking about that. We obviously have Kristi Noem's husband. Have I said that already? Because that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. A lot of legal talk. I was listening to the arguments today by the Supreme Court. Very interesting. And on and on. There's so much that we have to get to today. But let's start off with the Mike's Right. Shut the fuck up and listen. All right, guys, tonight we're going to be diving into one of those phrases, all right? And it sounds simple until you realize that it's basically the legal version of "it depends on it." Okay, let's talk about the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, specifically that spicy little line, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Yes, those 5 words that have launched about 150 years of arguments, lawsuits, political meltdowns, and nobody having a clue what an American is. And if you remember a couple episodes back, I defined it for you. But this isn't about my definition. So here's the setup, everybody. The 14th Amendment gets passed after the American Civil War. The country's like, hey, maybe we should officially define who is a citizen before we have another existential crisis. And they drop this: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. Now, at first glance, you're like, cool. If you're born here, you're an American. A bald eagle hands you a social security number on your way out of the womb. Cut the cord, boom, American. Even if it's a Chinaman cutting the cord, still American. We're going to get to that in a minute. But then the lawyers show up, and it's not so simple anymore. We have interpretation. Of course, two sides form. Side one, birthright citizenship is clear. This side says, relax. It's already settled. They point to United States versus Wong Kim Ark. This case is basically the Supreme Court saying, yeah, if you're born here and you're a citizen, or if you're born here, you're a citizen, period. Wong Kim Ark, not easy to say, was born in San Francisco to Chinese parents who were not citizens. Government tried to say, nah, bro, you don't count, or you don't count, as we used to do it when I was younger. So the Supreme Court at the time said, actually, he does count. Boom, birthright citizenship equals upheld. This interpretation leans on jus sol, a fancy Latin right to soil, which sounds like a Home Depot slogan, but whatever. And they argue, subject to the jurisdiction thereof just means you follow U.S. laws. If you're born here, you're under U.S. authority, end of story. The only exceptions are diplomats, foreign occupiers, basically people who are legally outside U.S. authority. Even John Bingham, one of the guys who helped write the amendment, basically indicated it applied broadly to people born here. So this side goes, illegal entry does not matter. If you're physically here, you're under the jurisdiction. Congrats, baby citizen. Here's your anchor. Side two says, hold up, wait a minute. That phrase means more. Now, the other side comes in like, whoa. You skipped the fine print. They argue subject to the jurisdiction thereof doesn't just mean being present. It means full political allegiance. They lean on statements from guys like Lehman Trumbull, who said jurisdiction meant not owning allegiance to anybody else. So their argument is, if someone enters illegally, they haven't been formally accepted into the political community. Therefore, their children might not meet that full jurisdiction standard. Being physically present does not equal fully subject to the Constitution in the constitutional sense. They also point out the court in Wong Kim Ark didn't explicitly rule on illegal immigration because that wasn't the situation at the time. So they go, this isn't settled. It's assumed. And that the claim was had to live here within a domicile. And in that case specifically, the point was made, well, he lived here, therefore he's an illegal citizen. He has a domicile here. And here's where it gets funny. Both sides are reading the same sentence. Like it's not the world, it's like the world's most intense game of Mad Libs. One side reads subject to the jurisdiction of equals you're here, follow the laws, done. The other side reads subject to the jurisdiction of thereof as equal you owe total allegiance. Not just parking your body here. Same 5 words, completely different country, depending on who you ask. That's not law. That's a Rorschach test. Let's toss in some history for a second, just for context. Even Frederick Douglass supported broad inclusion, arguing America should be a place where birth confers belonging. But at the same time, debates in Congress show that they were very aware of allegiance, sovereignty, and who truly belongs politically. So guess what? They didn't write it cleanly enough to settle it forever. And now it's up to the courts. But let's talk about the real issue. This is what kills me. We've got the most powerful legal document in the world, and parts of it read like a group project that nobody wanted to edit the final draft of. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof? What the fuck does that mean? Apparently, everything or nothing, depending on your political party or the argument a lawyer can make. That's not clarity. That's job security for lawyers. Now, fast forward. We've got courts interpreting, politicians spinning, activists yelling, cable news adding dramatic music like it's a Marvel movie. And the average person is like, wait, am I supposed to understand this? Or hire a guy in a $900 suit to translate English into slightly different English? But here's the bigger point I haven't heard anyone talk about. We're told laws are precise, but then you read them and realize they're precise until they're not precise. Look at the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. Shall not be infringed. That's about as clear as it gets. And yet, we've got debates, regulations, loopholes, and reinterpretations. So even when the language is clear, people still find a way to go, yeah, but what if infringed actually meant slightly inconvenienced? So here's the truth. The 14th Amendment isn't just about immigration. It's about something deeper. What happens when language leaves the room or leaves room for interpretation in a system built on argument? Because once you introduce ambiguity, you don't get clarity. You get judges interpreting, lawyers arguing, and politicians weaponizing. And regular people are on Facebook like they're all secretly on the Supreme Court, and they're all Supreme Court law constitutional experts. And at the end of the day, subject to the jurisdiction thereof isn't just a phrase, it's a reminder that laws aren't just written, they're fought over by lawyers. And sometimes, not because they're complicated, but because they weren't simple enough in the first place or defined properly in any real way. Maybe if our lawmakers did something, why not define clearly what our laws actually mean? Not how it's interpreted to mean by lawyers, judges, and the times that they're dealing with now. I don't know. That's the Mike's Right. Hope you listen. All right, I am all tangled up here because my phone is dying. I needed to hit the charger. And tell me what you think of in the chat. Tell me what you think. Let's hammer me. Hammer my interpretation of this. Hammer what I was listening to the entire time. But I'm going to tell you something. It's something I see Coach Patterson in the chat, and I should send him the link to see if he wants to join tonight. But this is the problem. Okay, laws cannot be interpreted by justices or by anybody like that. These laws, the way they're designed, the way they're written, that law could have been, sorry, let me finish that thought. The way they are written leaves way too much for debate. And once again, even when it's not, like I said with the Second Amendment, they still find a way to debate it. That's why it has to be written out very clearly. Like if you have something like jurisdiction thereof, at least have a side note to say, what exactly does jurisdiction thereof mean? And you can't tell me that they didn't have any type of immigration process back then. Could you just sail here and boom, and all of a sudden you're here and you're an American citizen? Is that how it worked, to where you could vote? Because if that was really the situation, then we shouldn't be stopping illegals from voting either. Because technically anybody coming here is an illegal alien. When do you take on when do you take on today's reality in today's world? I think things could have been defined a hell of a lot better to where we're not left up to interpretation. Coach Patterson says Democrats pretend they aren't racist and Republicans pretend they aren't gay. Bimbofication, bro. I have that coming. So hold that thought. Republicans are supposed to be strict interpretationalists. And the 14th was a Reconstruction Amendment. So fighting this kind of flies in the face of the party of Lincoln and the non-racist MAGA BS. Allegiance and loyalty only was an issue for people that separated from the United States and started their own country. So listen, you know, if you do just read the Constitution the way I read it, not in a biased way, but all persons that are born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, this is, I think, where you get into the interesting part of this debate. What if you do have like this, you know, tourism that they have in these other countries, where pregnant women will fly in just to plop out a kid in America, then they take that kid, they fly back to China, but that kid now has citizenship in America. Are they subject to the jurisdiction thereof? No, but you know what? That American kid, when he comes back when he's 18 with his parents, that could get green cards and they could work the system like that. Do they count? Because I don't think they're American citizens. I think they came here to game the system. And I don't think, you know, even though that kid is subject to the full jurisdiction thereof, what if he spent the first 18 years of his life living in another country and then decides to come here? And now all of a sudden he's an American citizen? Wasn't schooled here? Is his allegiance here? I mean, is it as simple as just getting put out here on this planet? And I don't know if it was, because if you do look at the 14th Amendment, you know, it was a lot that had to do with slavery. You know, that's really what it was about. I don't think they were thinking about people coming in here as a tourism type situation like we have today. That's why I wish it was a little bit more clearly defined. I mean, this is what it means to subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You have to be bing, 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 bing. 5 bullet points that could at least be guided in a little bit more of a way. Like, let's be a little bit more specific. Let's operationally define what jurisdiction thereof actually means. That way, you know what? We're not guessing at what the founders meant. We're not taking arguments about what those people were arguing at the time. We're not trying to interpret. How about you just get a little bit more fucking specific? That way we don't have situations like this. And this is the stuff that was blowing my mind today listening to this. You had people like Amy Coney Barrett. You're going to tell me this is how our system's supposed to operate?
Our marginal cases, that one I think has the benefit of being addressed in 1401F, where it talks about.
Yeah. But what about the Constitution?
Under the Constitution, I mean, look, domicile is a constitutional standard in all kinds of other situations.
Well, and it's hard.
Diversity, jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction. Sorry.
Yeah. But what about the Constitution? Yeah. This sounds like a debate club. What the fuck what am I watching when I watch this? When I watch the Supreme Court, you know, there was people saying, "Oh, Trump went and he stormed out mad after Ketanji Brown Jackson and the general went at it." But what are we watching? Is this a high school debate club? Why are our laws being debated like this? Why is it who has the better argument? I don't understand how any of this works. It makes no fucking sense to me. The 14th Amendment was made to be inclusive, not to rule not to rule people out. I'm not, but what people? Again, right? So, like, you do take America's always had some type of immigration system, right? When you formed America, it wasn't like you could just come here. You know, if Germans just started coming here and forming their own German. You know, I don't think that would have flew. That you had this whole thing where you came here and you kind of became a little bit American, but you brought your flavor and your culture with us. But you came in and we're an American. You know, I think that's the problem. I think nobody has a clear definition of what the fuck an American actually is. It cannot just mean that you were plopped here, that you were just put on this planet here, especially if your parents have no allegiance to this country. And you're still living with your parents. I don't see how that works. Now, again, like I said, I think it really should be on a case-by-case basis, and there should be a little bit more of a criteria to the 14th Amendment. I think it's a horribly written law. Honestly, it's a horribly written amendment. I don't see why people can't, at least Democrats and Republicans, say, how can we harden up this law to actually define what jurisdiction thereof is? And maybe that's the problem. Maybe they couldn't come up with the answer. Maybe they were arguing with each other. They couldn't even come up with a clear fucking definition. So now guess what? We're just going to say these words and let the people down the road figure it all out. And I don't know if we're any more equipped to figure it out than anybody else before us. I don't know. Citizenship was leveraged for political power via the state. Let's get to Audrey. Love it. New name. As someone who doesn't have a lot going for them, being born in the U.S. is one of the biggest achievements and huge deal to me. So I want to keep citizenship away from as many people as possible. Interesting. I don't know if I quite understand that comment, Harvey. Go ahead and be a little more less vague and tell me a little bit more about that. Because listen, it's not like I want to keep citizenship from people. You know what I want to do? I want to have a. I just wish we didn't leave so much up for interpretation. And when I listen to these type of arguments, and here's another one. Ready? This is where was that? I thought I had another argument here. So, you know what I have? I have Gorsuch. I have like a 5-minute long version of Gorsuch and the lawyer. And I don't have another video. I thought I had another video of that. But let's do this. Ready? Let's get let's add to the stage this and listen to a little bit of Gorsuch and this general.
Just to follow up on that point, General, one interesting counterpoint about the understanding of Wong Kim Ark that followed with respect to temporary sojourners. And I take you've got your well-taken points. But there was, of course, John Marshall Harlan, the great dissenter, who dissented in Wong Kim Ark and later gave a bunch of lectures. And he posed the question about the sojourners. Suppose an English father and mother went down to the hot springs to get rid of the gout. And while there, they have a child, now back in England. Is that child a citizen of the United States, born of the jurisdiction thereof by mere accident of birth? And he says, under Wong Kim Ark, he is. And he continues, I was one of the minority. And of course I was wrong.
Okay, so let's dissect that for a second, right? Because that's kind of like the situation that I posed to Patterson. English father and mother, and this is obviously another Supreme Court justice. I guess they called him the great dissenter. I am not going to pretend that I am a legal scholar, but I can think about what these guys are saying in a realistic way. What if two English people were vacationing here, or whatever it was? They had a baby. They were living here. They moved back to England because that kid was born here, but they moved back and now they're living in England. Is that a citizen of the United States? And they said that he thought it would be. And I guess his opinion, he said was the wrong opinion. But you got to put it in the chat. Is that a citizen of the United States? Are they under the jurisdiction thereof? Right. These are the gray areas that I wish we could get a little bit out of, because we live in the gray area, and the gray area always grows and grows and grows by people that know how to manipulate the system and manipulate it like that. It's just disgusting. But check out his response. It was a great response.
Now, I'm sure that was tongue in cheek, but now what do you do with that?
I'd say two things in response to that. First of all, he gave a speech, but we have 12 uncontradicted treatises that say the opposite, that is not what Wong Kim Ark means, and that's not the meaning of the clause. But also, I'd make a more fundamental point. When you're looking at Wong Kim Ark, one of the dissent has this dominant theme that really Tom theme, like, you can't be doing this because you can't make and we all agree, or it's obvious, that the children of temporary visitors do not become citizens. And how does the majority opinion address that? It says domicile 3 times when it recites the legal rule. It says permanent residence and domicile when it decides the holding. So the court should be bound by what it says. This is what we're deciding. And again, on page 75, it says this is the single question. Now, there's been a lot of discussion up to that point, but at the very end, they said the single question we've decided is the citizenship status of the children of Chinese immigrants with a permanent residence and domicile in the United States.
Do you think Native Americans today are birthright citizens?
So hold on, ready? Because I'm going to get back to that, because that's an interesting question that he just asked right here. But so again, think about what you're hearing, everybody. In these arguments and in these decisions and in these cases, everyone wants to quote the Supreme Court like it, but that Supreme Court decision kind of helps out both groups of people. Because what did John Sauer, what was he saying? Permanent residence, domicile. There was a reason why they were arguing at the time that this dude was a permanent resident here in America. That was the argument. That was one of the key arguments that they were making. They had a domicile here, and he was a resident in America. The reason why they were making that case is because even that lawyer thought that jurisdiction thereof meant you had to be a living resident here. Because how are you under the jurisdiction thereof if you are not a legal living resident here? You're not under the jurisdiction. So I don't like the very idea of dual citizenship. You're the citizen of one fucking country or another. There's no like, oh, I'm a dual. No, you're not, because half the time you're not under the jurisdiction thereof of America. You're under some other countries. You're living in that country. So there's a lot to be, talked about with under the jurisdiction thereof. And what he said was like I said, permanent residence. That was argued there, and that makes sense to me. That you have to be a permanent resident here to be under the jurisdiction thereof here. And then Gorsuch goes on to ask him that question about what if the Indian tribes, would they be citizens under you?
Under your test and under your friend's test?
I think so. I mean, obviously they've been granted citizenship by statute.
Put aside the statute. Do you think they're birthright citizens?
No, I think the clear understanding that everybody agrees in the congressional debates is that the children of tribal Indians are not birthright citizens.
I understand that's what they said, but your test is the domicile of the parents, and that would be the test you'd have us apply today, right?
Yes. So if a tribal Indian, for example, gives up allegiance to...
Born today, birthright citizens.
I think so on our test. Yeah, if they're lawfully domiciled here.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I have to think that through, but that's my reaction.
I'll take the yes. That's all right. And then I just want to ask you quickly about.
So now again, he thinks under their definition, the Indians would be here because they're in a very interesting position, but they are under the jurisdiction thereof. If they do a crime, outside of their, reservation, whatever it is, I think we could hold them, accountable for those things. But that's an interesting question, right? So these are the arguments, these are the discussions that these people are having. And if I had to guess, listening to it all, hearing everything that was going on, some of the questions, and I didn't listen to every last bit of it. That shit gets mind numbing, especially when you hear I don't know. It sounds like I said, it sounds like a high school debate sometimes to me, and it sounds very ignorant. Sometimes it's smart, but the other times it honestly is very tough to even deal with. But one thing's very clear. I don't think they're going to rule with the president on this. I'm not making a Calstradamus prediction here, because they definitely took. Let me tell you something. The guy's name is John Sauer. Okay, Surgeon General John Sauer, and he has done a very, very, very good job of making the case. Okay, if this is going to be won on Trump's side, or lost, it's not because of the job he did. It's just, I think he has a tougher hurdle. I do think it's a more liberal read of the Constitution. But is it? It's once again, I think it's a interpretation. It's not a liberal read. A liberal read of the Constitution is saying thou shalt not be infringed means you could infringe it a little bit. That's a very liberal read of the Constitution. This is a how do we want to interpret this type situation? Does it go in my favor or your favor? And at the end of the day, I do not see it going in the favor of the president just based on some of the questions. So if I had to guess out of the right, I would say Chief Justice Roberts is gonna go against it. I would say Amy Coney Barrett's going to go against it. And I'm going to say that Kavanaugh goes against it. Just based on some of the questions I heard them asking and the tone in which they were asking them. Now, they all could have been playing, devil's advocate. I'm not going to say that I could read what these people are saying. If I had to guess, I would say it's going to go that way. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be like two dissenters maybe coming out of it, 2 to 3 maybe tops. If 3 people go in the president's direction, I'd be surprised. Now, I do think we have to clearly define what an American and what an American citizen is. And I don't think as a matter of law, I don't think we have a clear definition on what an American citizen is. But, we'll see what happens. Mariah says this would never be in question in any other country. Try taking advantage any other place and see what the outcome is. Listen, and that's 100% true, Mariah, but we do like pride ourselves on some type of freedom. Right now, the question is, are all 8 million people on the planet given our right to our freedom just because they're, going to be here at some point in time? I don't think anybody thinks that's reasonable. So yeah, you're right. Joseph says, Mariah, 1000%, the world would be in a very rude awakening. And Mariah comes back with, we get walked all over and we pay for it in one way or the other. I think most people are over it. Yes, way over it, Joe. So yeah, I think we're way over it. And I think, you see it because there are consequences to everyday taxpayers when people come across the border uncontrolled, and when you have all these policies and when you have laws written in a way that affect our lives that are this open to some type of interpretation. And then, what's interesting about this? It's like they keep going back to this court case back in the day as legal precedent. But what if they were wrong back then? And the problem is, how do you even say someone's right or wrong in the way they interpret something? Again, this shit is all subjective. And subjectivity has no place in the law. And sadly, this is what these assholes bask in. It's just absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. Last couple of comments on this. And we'll get to totally random. What's going on? Totally random. If you like it, dude, totally random. Figure the fuck out of my like button. Love it, bro. There's so much language and amendments and laws on the books that are way outdated. I think are some outdated? Yes. But again, I don't think this is outdated. I think being a citizen could be clearly just, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Let's make a couple definition points just to ratify that part of the Constitution. Say this. These are the points we could all agree on. This is what it means to be a citizen. How about an amendment of defining what an actual American is? And the question is, do you think we'll ever be able to even agree on a definition? I think the problem is what you agree on is so minute that it leaves room for all the argument, because there's always just going to be argument. You're always going to have the two bullshit sides. It's very interesting. For example, the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms are the intent for home protection, hunting, and survival, not to have an AR for a toy. I'm pro-gun, but I would be in favor of reform. For example, the right to bear arms was that's totally random. That's incorrect. So the Second Amendment was to protect yourself from a tyrannical government, period. End of story. It's not for sport. It's not for hunting. It's not for home protection. It's none of that stuff. It is for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to exist. I have to be able to protect my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the people from anybody that's going to be coming against me. So yes, my protection from every single person, whether it's a toy or not a toy, I should have sufficient arms and ammunition to be able to fight off that tyrannical government. And we have already had our civil war. When does it happen again? I got to tell you something. When we start accepting shall not be infringed to mean, you know what, I'll give up a part of that, then we're making that word shall not be infringed irrelevant. That phrase was put in there for an absolute purpose. You know, and everyone wants to say, oh, it was for the militia. No. Right? There's a comma there. Right? In order for us to have a free militia, comma, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Or a well-regulated militia. That's what it says. Yes, in order to keep necessary to free state, a well-regulated militia. Yeah, we have that, and we have the right of the people. The right of the people are the militia. The people are the militia. You can have a one-man militia. Did you know that? Interesting. You know, so to me, that's where it goes with it. Let's see. We know what they meant. They meant to increase the population and establish citizenship for everyone physically here, born naturalized, including the 3/5 compromise and others. I do think it was, I think it had to do with slaves. Honestly, that whole thing, born to the jurisdiction thereof, I think pure and simple had to do with slaves. I don't think they were thinking about people running across the border or the tourism or any of that stuff. But I don't know. I did not read the arguments on either side. I listened to people talk about the arguments, but I did not read them. Let's get into another topic. This is a fucking just ridiculous topic. Absolutely ridiculous. Did you hear about Kristi Noem's husband? Yep, this is him. And I have one main thing to say to you, okay? Straighten out your nipples. Fuck, man. Can you have a little bit of pride in your nipple direction? That looks like a bad tit job go one way going this way, one way going that way. Is that part of his fetish? He likes the big, ridiculous, disgusting tits. Viewer discretion is advised right now. I'm going to be honest with you because I'm going to make too many jokes with this. I got to tell you, this is the reason why Kristi Noem left. Remember when we were all wondering, like, oh man, why did he get rid of her like now? You know, you could have got rid of her after the ICE was like shooting Patty. It's like, no, fine. Kristi Noem's still good. All of a sudden, it's like, why? Okay, yeah, now we got Mark Wayne Mullen. Now we get it. Because they knew about this. It's funny because Trump, they told him about it. He's like, what? No way. Really? Oh man, that's a shame. That's just too bad. That's just too bad. But apparently, oh man, I don't even know how to respond to this one. Because do I feel bad for Kristi Noem? I don't know if I feel bad for her, but this is the story, okay? You have the New York Post reported that the photos were taken out of a bimbofication fetish, which focuses on hypersexual, exaggerated, and physical appearances. So he likes the big, giant tits. And then what he does is he doesn't just like seeing them. He wants to dress up like it and then sext these pictures over to women that he is paying to look at his weird shaped nipples. And this entire time, Kristi Noem is apparently banging Corey Lewandowski. So that part, I guess I would understand, right? Because she doesn't have big, giant, awkward shaped melon tits. But dude, what? It goes to be like, who the fuck are we? Who are we voting into? Right? It's like every one of these people seem like they're compromised in some way. Every one of these people are compromised, and then the people that are in control, they go, yeah, let's get this compromised piece of shit and let's make them run for office. I mean, think about this. If the New York Post could get it, if Axios could get it, you're telling me the head of national security, of DHS, of Homeland Security, couldn't have been blackmailed with her husband doing this shit, sexting this to women who obviously were getting paid to send the messages back to somebody. Oh, no, let them keep doing it. Okay. Hey man, I got Kristi Noem's husband doing this shit to me. And this guy's out here, and it's funny, right? This is him talking about how he met Kristi Noem.
We were friends, and I was a classmate with her brother. And so I was acquainted with her throughout high school. And then she went to the same college I did. We started dating when she was in high school, and she went to college, and then just, the typical off and on relationship. And we finally started to get serious. And then we, I asked her to marry me, and of course she said yes. And so, but we grew up in the same community, going to the same school, with the same group of friends, raised on a farm with the same kind of upbringing, good values, hard work. And when I went to college my freshman year, I'd heard that she had some interest in me. And then, of course, why wouldn't I have interest in her? She's remarkable. So we started dating then, and then it kind of went from there. And in 1992, we got married.
Good values? Listen, I got to ask this question. How do you start one of those fetishes? I guess I'm the most basic bitch on the planet, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? It starts with porn. And as soon as the guy starts watching porn, then they're going to, next thing you know, they want things in their ass and big tits and foot fetishes and this whole 9 yards. I could be honest with you guys. I've watched porn for years. It started with Easy Rider magazines, and it graduated to now I could watch it right over my phone. I think technology is wonderful. And I'm still watching people in missionary position, man. I don't need the weird shit. I don't understand how these fetishes happen, especially the crazy ones. Like I heard, what was it, Megyn Kelly today talking about a doctor she had on, heard about the fetish where these people get off imagining themselves being eaten alive by animals. How does that form? Like, how does that work out? How does a brain go from, I have this normal life on the farm, maybe it's the farm, maybe those udders, bro, just fucking cow udders, turn them on, you need to see giant udders on. Who knows? But how do you go from the farm to saying you got good values to sexting pictures of yourself like this to women you're paying $500 to $1,000 to for bimbofication? I don't even know how that happens. However it happens, it's interesting. There's got to be something missing in somebody's life. I get it, some basic shit. I get some. You want to hear a funny story? You ever go? I don't know if you're in the area, but in the beautiful Mount Airy Lodge, all you have to bring, right in the Poconos. My wife and I back in the day wanted a affordable like weekend out. We picked like Cove Haven, and we went there, and they had this a bunch of things to do for couples and shit. And the one thing to do is they had one of those games, and they brought the man out, and how well do you know your wife? And they brought the woman in, and the woman asked questions and blah, blah, blah. And they asked this woman like the three things fetishes that she liked. And it was like some normal ones and then some weird ones. And one of them was getting peed on. And in front of everybody, which you got to love, she was like, I like this, and I definitely like getting peed on. She said it just like that. I definitely I love it. I just love getting pissed on, And they bring the husband out, and the husband answered when they asked him this question in the most matter-of-fact, direct way, bro. And it was like this, and definitely she likes getting pissed off, dude. And the place lost it. The place is laughing. The people we were with, we met some fun people that were there. We were fucking crying laughing because it was like, dude, to admit that in front of everybody, it was golden shower. It's like, oh, definitely a golden shower. It was one of I will never forget moments in your life that you just remember so vividly. That's one of those moments of my life that I remember vividly is the golden shower moment. it's never ever going to change, but we have to get actually moving here. Let's get to JD Vance. Okay. So there was a big article about JD Vance, and here it is. Late March 2026, U.S. President JD Vance reportedly had a very tense phone call with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regarding the ongoing conflict in Iran. During the call, Vance reportedly ripped into or screamed at Netanyahu for what he characterized as deceptive projections about the war. Did you hear that? Everyone's reporting this. And you have some of these hardcore, right-wing spinners that are like, JD Vance gave it to Netanyahu, and it's like, yeah, man, fuck yeah. He gave it to him on the phone. And everybody does not like in America what Israel is doing. They don't. But it goes on to say this. JD Vance he said they were overselling the conflict. Vance accused Netanyahu of misleading President Trump by presenting the war in Iran as an easy win, suggesting that regime change was more likely than it actually was. And Netanyahu was the one that was telling Trump, and if you remember Trump talking about this, on how the Iranian people were going to rise up. Now, I know I pissed off a lot of people a couple weeks ago when I said the Iranian people are not going to rise up, and if that's what you're resting your hopes on, I think it's a failed dream. But that's what they said. And then he went into failed predictions. Vance pointed out that Netanyahu's initial predictions about the war, specifically that it would be quick, had not come true. Even though you hear Trump saying we're ahead of schedule, you hear Marco Rubio said that we are ahead or on schedule, right? So the verbiage changes from these guys. Trump is like we're way ahead of schedule. Marco Rubio says we're ahead or possibly on schedule, right? And then you have Vance saying something totally different. And it's interesting watching these guys because, listen. Oh, let's finish Vance, and I'll get to that. And he said the opposition to a forever war. The vice president emphasized that Trump administration would now the U.S. get bogged down into a multi-year conflict with no key objections. Now, this is what you're watching in front of your face, everybody. Let me break this down for you. The Trump administration realizes right now that this has been the biggest mistake of Trump's presidency, and Trump's entire legacy is at risk right now. They understand that. They also understand that they are most likely getting their asses kicked in 2024, in 2026 coming up. What they can do is position the favorable person for 2028. Now, what are you watching? You are watching Marco Rubio go full in on this. Okay, Marco Rubio, if you watch it, he is way more content with having people fire negatives at him. And he is way more, I guess, conviction in what he is actually doing in Iran. And he is going to go down and he is going to fight this. And I think it's going to be at his detriment if he wants to run for president in 2026, because he is going to be a full staunch defender of this. And that's how he's positioning himself. JD Vance is not. What JD Vance is doing is he's positioned himself to be able to come back at a later time and say, you know what? I was skeptical of all this, and I was the one that voiced it. Marco, you didn't voice it. I was the one that voiced it. You're the one that wanted to do it. And I think this is all by design, because I'm going to tell you something. Here's just the bottom line, okay? You have the AIPAC tracker, and I love the AIPAC tracker because it really talks about this, okay? And like it gives you numbers, and if you were given money by AIPAC, sure, you don't have to, but it just happens that everybody that gives money to AIPAC supports Israel, okay? So here's AIPAC. They gave Trump $230 million, everybody. $230 million in spending by pro-Israel interest groups. That is a lot of money. Now, Vance alone, ready for this? Vice President J.D. Vance has received $167,000 in campaign contributions from the Israel lobby. However, Vance's mentor, pro-Israel billionaire Peter Thiel, spent $15 million funding his 2022 U.S. Senate campaign. Did you read that? $15 million for his Senate campaign. So this is a guy that is fully funded by Israeli loyalists. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that he is now coming out strongly and condemning this because that's what he's doing out of conviction, I think that is a smart political play to get him to be a little bit against this so he can have some saving grace, so he could then run on that platform when it comes through, when it comes about. You're not going to tell me that you're completely funded by AIPAC. You're completely funded by pro-Israel Jewish donors. And I'm going to be honest with everybody. If you have watched this show, if you watched me even back with Two Mics Live, when J.D. Vance first emerged on the scene, I said, I don't like him for one reason. Where did he come from? He doesn't have a spectacular upbringing. Oh, he was raised by his grandparents. So was my wife. Oh, he wrote a book. There's 100 people, 1,000 people that wrote a book that was raised by their grandparents. They got no traction. But this guy has got $15 million for a Senate campaign. This guy's able to come out of nowhere. This guy goes from showing up to just coming out of nowhere with this. How does that work? And he does so, and he immediately goes to the Senate. No other real political history. And then he's vice president like that. And everybody on the right is going to fall for the deke to make him look good. Now, listen, I have really liked J.D. Vance as a vice president. I think he has done great things as a vice president. But I question a lot of this. But I do think if you are on the right now, that is a very smart political play. Because you have to have somebody from this administration. Let's face facts. All of the major players in the Republican Party that could be running for president in some way, shape, or form, right now that the Republican Party wants to run, are in President Trump's cabinet in some way. And everyone doesn't realize, and I'm going to be saying this, you're going to have an anti-Israel Republican candidate that is going to be pushed up into the forefront. That is going to happen. It's going to, if the God's honest truth, if the Republicans are smart and they want to salvage the 2026 election, they should start coming out against this war. 100%. Start coming out against everything that's going on here. Because they don't own it. They haven't voted on it. They could be against Trump. So they're going to have to figure out how to win post-Trump. And listen, again, if you don't like what I'm saying here, it's okay. But I'm trying to analyze this in a real way. What schedule, though? Have we seen any so-called schedule? What do we mean schedule? Do me a favor, totally random. Tell me exactly what you mean by schedule, because I think I'm a little bit. I think I'm a little bit back. But listen, this whole J.D. Vance thing, again, I think this is political theater, okay? And I gave you my reasons for it. We have to stop getting sucked into political theater. I have one more story to get to, and this is actually a story from Megyn Kelly, okay? Very interesting. It's a story about an NBC reporter, Richard Engel, trying to ask Netanyahu a question. All right. And I'm going to let her go because I'm going to give her the credit for it.
For you. Now, related to that, we have to tell you about a story that has not gotten much attention, but has massive implications about war and peace and what exactly we are fighting for in the Middle East. All right, no one's talking about this. We're going to walk you through it. Last Thursday, March 19th, Prime Minister Netanyahu held a press conference. NBC's Richard Engel, the network's longtime chief foreign correspondent, he knows his stuff, got to ask a question. Now, this is the official Israeli government press office's feed of that press conference. Listen to what went down. You're going to think something happened with your audio feed from the Megyn Kelly show. That's not what's happened at all. This is straight from the source and how it aired through this Israeli government press office feed. Watch.
Next question from Richard Engel from NBC News.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, so this is not
Hold
wrong.
on.
This is what they did. This is what they did. You clearly watch him asking a question.
He's clearly asking him a question, but there's no sound.
I should just let Megan.
Netanyahu's listening. Engel's still talking.
I think we have concrete goals, how to do it, how to end it. We want to, as I said, decimate the ballistic missile.
What happened? Why do we get part of the answer and no question? It's really not that helpful when you can't hear the question the reporter asked. Well, they muted Richard Engel.
They muted this guy, okay? And this was the question that he actually asked.
The Americans do believe that Israel dragged the United States in this war and is now pulling the rest of the world along with it. How do you see this ending?
Well, I think we have concrete goals, how to do it.
And you obviously heard Netanyahu. So then this guy obviously didn't get an answer. He got a panned bullshit answer. So he asked a very tough question. Netanyahu didn't answer in any real way. And then he follows up like this. And everyone gets Netanyahu's handlers get mad at him. They try to cut him off. And then Netanyahu allows the question and watch.
I didn't exactly ask, however, why the Israel's. No, I think I only fair to. This is a serious subject. This is a serious. My question.
Per outlet.
Go ahead.
You don't have a lot of time.
Why you don't? This is a war and peace here.
Of course, but you have.
There are oil fields around the world that are burning. Gas prices are going up. The war is popular here in Israel. It is not popular with many Americans. So my question was, how do you see this ending? Not why, not even when. What do you imagine the day after will look like?
Well, we have achievable goals in order to have the flow of oil. Just have oil pipelines going west through the Arabian Peninsula, right up to Israel, right up to our Mediterranean ports, and you've just done away with the choke points for forever. That is definitely.
So that's the answer that he gave. So basically, it's just we're gonna beat up a little bit on Israel or on Iran. We're not going to change anything. And you know what? We may have to address this again in the future when they get even more pissed off and more resolve. And we just created a country that has now come together with even a bigger mission to kill Iran or to kill Israel and to kill America. And you see it. Trump came out today and says we got to try to get a way out of this. He's like, this is going to be over soon for us. Because I think he realizes how much this is killing him. But it got everyone. I have to ask everybody seriously. Why has Israel killed journalists? Why aren't they allowing them to report properly? Why are you blocking out questions from legit journalists? If you didn't have anything to hide, why are you doing some of the behaviors that make you hide? I don't know. I don't understand why we tolerate this from that country. And then you have this, a bulldozer. That was the St. George's statue. I don't understand the blind allegiance. I really just it makes no sense to me. Absolutely no sense. Let's get to the last couple of comments here. David Patterson says, we switch subjects from the party of family values real quick. Talk about these people's culture. What people's culture? Do you think because one Republican who has a husband that likes to dress up in nipple shit represents all Republicans' family values culture? You know, nothing for nothing. If anything, that's your side, David Patterson. That's your side. Your side's the one that's cool with this guy in the first place. You're the last people that should be complaining about this guy. You would welcome him with open arms. You think he's normal. The right's still saying, ha, 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 look at this fucking weirdo shit. Your side's saying, what is the left complaining about? Is the left really making fun of a dude's nipples that one point in one way, one going the other way? Is the left really making fun of a trans dresser? I think this shows the rank of hypocrisy of both of these parties, because both of these parties are freaky as fuck, and both of them want to make fun of the freaks. It's awesome, but the left is basking in this, like, ha ha, Noem's husband's a cross-dressing weirdo. Good for him. I love that he's a cross-dressing weirdo. They don't support him, do they? Nah, I guarantee they don't. I guarantee they don't. Till he goes full trans. It goes like Caitlyn Jenner style. Then I guess we're good. Meanwhile, the debt is heading towards 40 trillion. Yeah, man, the debt is heading towards 40 trillion. That is 100% true. War schedule or timeline. So there's, they said it here, totally random. They said, if you listen to Caroline Leavitt and all these people, that their timeline for this was 4 to 6 weeks. That's what they stated early on. I think we're in week 5. So if we do 6 weeks and get out, again, if our only goal was to attack military sites and get the fuck out, that'd be one thing. But that's not what we did. We also killed their leaders. Okay? We killed their leaders, which means we wanted regime change. And now we're not following through with the regime change. So the same people, we're just dealing with the third or fourth people that, you know how many people over there think they have a divine right and they think that they are the direct descendants of Shah or Sham or whatever the hell you want to call it? Was it Shem? I think it's direct descendants of Shem. You know, they have plenty of these people that are going to step up and want to lead this country. And all of them are going to harbor the same exact anger towards us. So again, this is it's an off ramp because they realize it's killing them. They realize it's killing them. Guys, $6 for diesel. Again, I told you if I was going to be mad at Biden, which I was, I'm going to be mad at Trump for it. And this goes to show you the president can affect gas prices. That argument is over because President Trump walked in, affected gas prices in a very positive way, and then took actions that affected him in a very negative way. The president is directly responsible for gas prices. And President Trump from 2016 to now has bore that out. And we have to stop defending when these things go through the roof because these people do have the power to keep prices low. And keeping gas prices low is the only thing that sustains our economy in the long term. Period. End of story, end of discussion. Don't care about it any other way. How about Lindsey Graham at Disney World alone with a bubble and a wand? That guy's a fucking dude. These guys are all weirdos. Like I said, they're all compromised. This Jeffrey Epstein is real. This shit is real. The only people that run for these big spots are the ones that have, compromised information on them that they want to keep out. And people obviously have it. This is the God's honest truth. This is what scares people in politics about people like me. Because whatever you reach in my closet and pull out, I'm going to fucking put on. I'm not out doing fucking weirdo shit. I work my balls off, come home. I coach baseball. I'm not sending messages. I'm not sending dick pics. I don't have Anthony Weiner type shit on my laptop. I'm not dressing up like a cross-dresser. I did that once, and it was because I was China for Halloween. I lied to you. I did it twice because it was such a good costume. But it was China. It was for Halloween. I did that twice. I got to get pictures of that. Somebody has pictures of me in China. That's going to come out. Mike Caldery's the cross-dresser. Look at how big his tits were as China. Dude, she had big tits. I had to be accurate in my costume design. Oh, man. Jake Callis says, oh, wow, coach. You were par for Congress that made the 14th Amendment, so you know the intent of it. I am impressed. Some people need mental health help. I love it. Everybody, man, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys see, I try to see every single side of this, okay? And I try to weigh what's real from what's fake. I try to weigh the arguments, because what are you hearing? You're always hearing one side or the other. And you kind of don't hear, no one's really giving you both sides of this argument. So I think it's interesting to kind of go through both sides and make fun of it. And I do think the problem is with us, guys. We can't even agree on basic things like definitions. I mean, when we have the Supreme Court can't figure out what a woman is, how is anything? What else is open to interpretation if we can't define what a woman is by law? Yet we are making laws for men and women and people. We don't even know what a person is. What is a person? I guess we could start arguing that one next. All persons born here. What's a person? Is an illegal alien a person? I don't know. But this is the point. Hopefully we can get better at this stuff because way too much interpretation leads to the garbage that we see every single day and what I listen to all day long tonight. And the way you become a caltrop, everybody, obviously, is donating to my cause. If you could donate to my cause, I would really appreciate it. If you have Zelle, I have the other ones. I have to get them loaded up. I've been working my ass off. But if you have some Zelle and you want to toss some money out here, I'll read your names off. Anybody that wants to do it, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you being with me. And I really appreciate everybody. If you could share this, finger blast the like button. You know how to do it. You know what to do it. If I'm going to move you to do it, I'm going to move you to do it. I appreciate you guys. Scout Trop is out. Oh, by the way, Friday, I have a special guest coming on Friday. And he's a, once again, local guy. Great. It's going to be, he seems to be exactly like me. Stick around for those previews. I'm gonna be dropping those tomorrow in the next couple of days. But Friday night, we're gonna have a good time. He's gonna be sitting here in studio with me. It's why I haven't moved it back up. But we have John. He's gonna be coming on. Let me just make sure because I don't want him. I just met this guy and it was like, okay, we could do something. Where is this? Ready? There you go. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Jeff. Sorry. Jeff Geo, man. I don't know why I had John in my head, but I'm glad I did this. His handle is jeff.geo.man, geo.man on Instagram and all these things. Listen, he's done something. He's gotten trespassed out of buildings. He is working really hard. He's going after Tinton Falls. He's going after a lot of the corruption and a lot of the overbuilding and a lot of the same stuff that I am fighting that he's seeing in kind of going into his area. So John, or it's not John. It's Jeff. Fucking Christ. It is Jeff, the Geo man. He will be here on Friday. Check him out. I really can't wait for that. It's going to be live, obviously 8 p.m. So I will see you Friday. This caltrop is out. Later.
So